Hey guys, I'm back with another IVF infertility type video. If you guys haven't already seen my IVF story, my husband and I actually filmed our entire IVF journey in a separate video, which I will link down below. So if you want to check that out first, feel free to. This video is all about my tips on how to get through IVF, or more so what worked for me personally. So I understand that everyone is different, everyone's journey is different, but I did want to share with you guys what helped me personally, and hopefully some of these tips will help you get through it as well. So if you're about to embark on an IVF journey or you're thinking about it, I wish you all the best. I know that infertility is not great. It really does suck, to be honest. And if you have infertility issues, you would know it sucks. It sucks that it's difficult to get pregnant, and seemingly everyone around you can get pregnant so easily and so quickly. But you know what? This is our journey. This is the process for us, or for some of us. So hopefully some of these tips will help you. Now feel free to leave a comment down below if you have any questions for me, or if you wanted to share your words of encouragement for others going through their own infertility journey as well. Or if you like, feel free to DM me on Instagram as well. I'm more than happy to talk to you or answer any of your questions. But let's get into the video. So I have divided my tips into 3 categories, and that is sort of like the mental sort of mindset stuff, and then really practical tips as well as some spiritual stuff that really helped me get through the journey. So I am going to start with the mental stuff. So the first thing for me is that I found that I really needed to change my whole mindset on what IVF is. And before I even started my journey, I thought IVF was this big, scary fertility treatment that's super invasive, that even destroys marriages, and is just like the most hardest, most nightmarish, terrible, awful thing that someone can go through. And I guess, yes, some of those things are correct. Like, it is a really challenging journey to go through, but I can say that I really don't think it was as bad as I originally thought it was. And it's also because I didn't really understand what IVF was before I started the journey. Like I said, I just thought it was this really invasive thing that would take over your entire life, and it would be like the worst, most possible journey ever. And I just feel like it's important to change that mindset, and my fertility specialist actually did help me with that, with the very first thing that he said. So when he told us that I had low AMH, and that was the reason why we were having difficulty conceiving, and he told us that IVF was the solution, the way he presented it to us was that it was the means to the end, and it was very matter of fact, and it was just like the process that we needed to go through to get to the outcome that we wanted. And he didn't say it like it was some scary thing, and of course he wouldn't, being the doctor, and but that really helped me. That really helped me with my perspective, and Phil and I actually found it really easy to make that decision that yes, we were going to go through IVF. We didn't even actually need to go away and discuss. The way that it was presented to us, we just thought, okay, well, if this is what we need to do to start a family, then why wouldn't we? So I know that it's easier said than done, and I know that I'm also speaking from the other side, where I am now pregnant. I have had my success story, and it's really difficult while you're going through it, or before you've even started, that you just wonder if you will ever have your success story, or if you will ever make it to the other side. I've been there, you know, I hope that I can give you some hope. So yeah, the first thing is really changing your mindset about what IVF is. Now that I've been through it, I really don't think it was that bad. I don't necessarily agree that it destroys marriages. Actually, I definitely don't agree with that. And I think that if it does, I feel like the marriage probably didn't have a good foundation anyway. I think for Phil and I, it actually strengthened our relationship and our marriage because it was probably the very first like challenging sort of difficult journey that we needed to go through together as a married couple. And now we've gone through that, and we've learnt how to deal with some adversity in our marriage and in our lives. So try and change your mindset about it. It's actually the process to get you to your miracle baby. Now, the second thing for me personally was that I felt it was really important to not let IVF take over my life. And this is going to be so personal to everyone's journey, and you might be different, but for me personally, I felt a lot more comfortable and a lot more happier not having my entire life revolve around IVF and around what I was going through. So what that meant was not everything that I was doing in my day-to-day life was based on trying to get pregnant. But if that is what you want to do and you're going to feel comfortable and happy doing that, you're going to feel the best doing that, then you go for it. But for me personally, I didn't want to do that. I still wanted to live a somewhat normal life. So for example, a lot of people do get acupuncture when they're going through IVF because a lot of people have said that it helps with fertility and it helps with IVF. Now, I spoke to my nurse about this, and basically there isn't any sort of hard evidence that acupuncture will help you get that success story. But of course, you know, it doesn't hurt to do it. But she mentioned the fact that, you know, it might be another thing that you stress about because it's quite expensive. And if you're stressing about acupuncture and you're there and you're stressed, that kind of defeats the whole purpose. So it really is up to you if you do it or not. And so I had a good think about that, and I thought, you know what? I don't want that extra added stress of this extra expense of having to go and get acupuncture. I didn't want an extra thing that I needed to do as part of my treatment. And I didn't want to spend my Saturday going to get acupuncture. I just wanted to live a somewhat normal life. So that was the decision that I made. Like I said, that was really personal to me. And I just want to say that if you're the same way, if you sort of have the same thought as me, that don't feel pressured or guilty that you're not doing absolutely everything to help you through your journey. I don't feel like you need to do absolutely everything, because a lot of the things anyway are sort of old wives' tales, or, you know, it may work, it might not work. So it really is up to you, and if you feel like it's really going to help. So I just wanted to say, yeah, don't feel pressured to have to do absolutely everything. And if you want to keep living your life normally, then you do that. And that really helped me. All right, so the next point is all about eating and nutrition. Now, I did eat relatively healthy throughout before I started IVF and during IVF, but I didn't go overboard, and I didn't sort of pressure myself to think that literally everything I put in my body had to contribute to this fertility journey. Because once again, it goes back to my previous point about not wanting everything to revolve around IVF. And so, you know, if once in a while I felt like eating a donut or some chips, then I just went for it. Now, in my IVF journey video, I did mention that, you know, it was quite difficult for me to go to social events or weddings and stuff, knowing that people were going to ask, you know, when are you going to have a baby, and all those kinds of questions. And so when I was actually going through my IVF journey, there were a couple of baby showers or social events that I just did not want to go to. I didn't feel like going. I didn't want to face up to those questions on when it was going to be our turn. And so I just didn't go. And I feel like if that's what you need to do, then just do it. And once again, don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel pressured that you have to put on this face and pretend like everything is okay. Because if it is going to be too hard for you to go to that baby shower or to that social event, then just don't do it. Now, my next tip is all about who you're going to tell about your IVF journey. And so first of all, let's talk about work. So initially when I was going through the journey and I first started, I didn't want to tell work at all. I thought one IVF cycle isn't that long. It's only about a month or so, and I can just sort of get away with going to appointments and stuff during that process without telling work, because obviously it's a really personal thing. You also don't really want, I know that, you know, we live in a progressive world now, but you also don't want it to affect your career path or your career growth, because who knows if it will. I mean, it also depends on the kind of workplace you work in and the kind of manager or leaders that you have in your workplace as well. But at the start, I just didn't want to tell anyone, so I didn't. But then it progressively got more difficult to sort of come up with excuses that could justify me needing to go to appointments on an exact day at an exact time, not being flexible around that, because obviously, you know, it's acceptable for you to go to doctor's appointments, but usually like you can work your schedule around work. But with IVF, you can't. A lot of the appointments, you need to do it on a certain day, and you don't even know when that's going to be until maybe like 2 days beforehand. So then you might need to cancel on really important meetings. And so that reflects poorly on you. And for me, that was difficult because I have quite a strong work ethic. I don't like people to think that I'm slacking off or that work is not a priority for me. And so that became quite stressful, you know, trying to tell my manager, you know, I need to go to this appointment and I can't go to that meeting type thing. So in the end, I think it wasn't until, I can't remember at which point it was throughout my IVF journey, but in the end, I decided to tell my manager. At that point, I had a new manager, and my old manager actually knew from the start because she was amazing, but then my new manager didn't know. And he was a male, which made things a little bit more difficult for me too, because you feel like you can just relate to a female on a more personal level when it comes to fertility stuff. But I ended up telling him, and then it was just so much easier after that, just saying, you know, I need to go to this appointment, and, you know, there'd be no questions asked, and, you know, my work would be a lot more understanding. And so, you know, there may be times during your IVF journey that you do need to just leave work suddenly, or something has happened and, you know, you're just not up for staying at work anymore. Or you might have an appointment and it's easier for you to work from home. So there's like a multitude of reasons why you need flexibility during this time. And it may be easier to actually tell your workplace. And I'm not saying you need to tell every single person, but it may be easier depending on where you work to actually do that, and then not have that added stress of needing to come up with excuses and lies and stuff on why you need to suddenly disappear. Now, my next tip is similar to the previous one, and it is still about who you're going to tell, but more so in your personal life. And for me, everyone is different. Some people want to tell, are really open about it and want to tell everyone. I know that I make YouTube videos, and a lot of YouTubers will vlog about it from the very start. I was not one of those people. It was a really personal and private journey for me until afterwards. So everyone is different, but for me, I didn't want to tell everyone. So we told our family and our really close friends, but I made a decision not to tell every single person. And this goes back to my previous point about not wanting my life to revolve around IVF, because I felt like if I was to tell everyone, then everyone would know what we were going through. Everyone would sort of ask us questions on how we were going and that sort of thing. And I didn't want that. And you might want that, and that might actually be really good for you. But for me personally, there were aspects of my life that I wanted to just keep on living normally and not have to always think about IVF all the time. So that's why I didn't tell every single person. The other reason why is also when people know, they obviously know at what stage you're in. And so then you kind of need to update these people on, you know, whether or not your transfer was a success or all that kind of stuff. And sometimes there may be negative news, but then you need to share that with, you know, a list of people, and then that becomes difficult as well. So once again, you might find that it's really good support to have that and to be able to have people to talk to about. But for me personally, I wanted to keep that network quite small. And then the other reason why I wanted to do that was because I still wanted to have the joy in the end of sharing to my friends that I was pregnant without them knowing that I was going through this whole thing. Like, I wanted the whole surprise factor and all of that. And I did have that with some of my friends and my old workmates. And it was, you know what, it was the best thing ever to be able to share that news and surprise them and, you know, have them genuinely surprised and not know that this was coming. So once again, that's totally going to be up to you, but it helped me not to tell every single person in my life. Now, there's going to be certain stages of the IVF journey that are more difficult than others. And in my IVF journey video, I explained that doing the needles was actually, the injections was my most feared part of the journey, and it really didn't end up being a big deal. And actually, it's the waiting. It's when you need to wait for results, when you need to wait to see if it's worked. Those stages of the journey are so difficult because all you can do is sit and wait, and then your mind goes crazy. So for me, especially during the 2-week wait at the end, when after you've done your transfer and you're just waiting to see if your embryo has implanted and whether or not you're pregnant, for me, it really helped to just keep busy. To keep busy, to live life normally, to just do what, you know, what makes you happy. And you know, if you have the luxury of even going on a little holiday or a mini getaway, you know, hopefully this pandemic doesn't stop you from doing that, but just keep busy. For me, that really helped me to get through it, and I just lived day by day. And it helps throughout the entire process, actually, to just live day by day. I know it's easier said than done. I felt that it helped me mentally to just live in the present and just to take each day as it comes. Okay, now I'm going to move on to some practical tips to get through IVF. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is something that I haven't heard many people talk about at all in these videos or in their IVF journey videos, and that is the pessaries. Now, you might be lucky and you might not have to do pessaries, but I had to do it through all 3 times, and it is not fun. And I actually think that it's worse than the injections, and it's probably one of like the worst physical things that you need to go through with IVF. So the pessaries is when you need to take progesterone, but you actually insert it vaginally. And there's different types of pessaries, and I've done both. So the first one is called crinone, and I still have a whole box of them. It's this stick. This one I took in after my very first transfer, so my memory is a bit rusty on this because it was a year ago now. but you basically have an applicator and there's a bit of gel inside. You insert it in and you release the gel, and then you take the applicator out. So it's kind of similar to putting in a tampon. This stuff is gross. So there are pros and cons to, I don't know if they're pros, but there's, you know, good things and bad things about the two different types of pessaries. So this crinone, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think it's crinone. With this, you get a buildup, and it's really gross in TMI, but you get a buildup of yuckiness inside you that doesn't necessarily come out until it's a massive buildup. So you either let it build up until it's like such a big size that when you go to the toilet, it comes out. And that did happen to me once, and it freaked me out because this little like ping pong sized thing just came out of me when I went to the bathroom. So that's not cool. Or you just have to sort of clean yourself in the shower and get the gunk out. It's basically just like the residual, I don't know, it's gross, it's disgusting. So it's really like, pessaries are so not sexy. Like, they're really, really not sexy. You just, if there's anything that makes you feel really, really not sexy at all, it's inserting pessaries and going through that whole process. So for me, I think I had to insert them, I think it was a week before transfer, and then after transfer as well. And then if you get a positive test result, then you go all the way up until 12 weeks. At least that was for me anyway. So because I didn't get a positive test result with my first transfer, I only did this for, I think I did this for 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks all up, and it's just disgusting. So that's crinone. Then you've got, I haven't even shared any tips with you yet, but I just need to give you some context first. So with OraPro, it's like, I don't have any more of those. They're really expensive, by the way. They're like a little bullet, like a little waxy bullet, and you also insert that vaginally. That one, the pro is that you don't get this gunky buildup over a number of days, but it's really gross because you get some really, like, a lot of discharge, and so you do definitely need to wear a liner, and oftentimes liners aren't even enough, and it's just disgusting. So my tip for dealing with pessaries is to go buy a new set of underwear. Get the kind that's not actually cotton. Like, you want some sort of fabric that's going to be easier to clean, because you don't want it to be too absorbent, and to go and experiment with different liners that are going to catch all of that disgusting discharge in the best way possible. And then when you're done with pessaries, chuck that underwear away. And you will find that if you do get the OraPro discharge onto your underwear, that it is quite difficult to wash off. And this was seriously like the bane of my existence. I know we're getting very TMI here, but what I did was, what did I do? I had to like spray with stain remover. So we usually do all our washing with cold machine wash only, but you definitely need it to be hot to get all that waxy discharge off your underwear. And then if you find that you've still got some left on your underwear after you've washed it, then you need to wait till it dries, get some sticky tape and actually try and get that wax off, and then wash it again. And so that was my process for like over 3 months with OraPro in my last transfer, because I needed to take it all the way up to 12 weeks. And I swear, like, the last time I ever had to do that, it was like the best day ever. And I genuinely felt like a free woman. So those are my tips for dealing with pessaries. And it's also just a pre-warning, because I never knew that this was coming for me. I thought it was just the injections. Now, speaking of injections, I felt like it really helped to actually numb the area where you're going to inject yourself with an ice pack. So you might see in the footage that I did have an ice pack, and I had it there for probably like a minute just to numb the area. And I have done an injection before without icing the area, and it does actually make a difference. You do feel it more. So if you've got an ice pack or, you know, some frozen veggies or something, just do that. If anything, it would mentally make you feel better that, you know, you're doing something about numbing the pain. The last practical tip is to not be afraid to ask lots and lots of questions to your doctor. And I found that I was just Googling all the time, or I might have not thought of the questions while I was in the appointment. So try and come up with your list of questions first, so that when you do go to your appointment, you can ask all the questions you like. Don't feel stupid about asking the questions too, because I know that I personally sort of felt a bit stupid asking some questions, so maybe I didn't, and then I would Google it instead and then not have a proper answer. And so it's always best just to ask. Now, my final tips are all about the spiritual side of things. Now, for me and for Phil and I, we found it really supportive to be able to tell some of our friends, our Christian friends and our friends at church, so that they could pray for us. And this goes back to my previous point about deciding who you're going to tell. We know that prayer fuels power, and sometimes you do feel a little bit too weak spiritually to really pray. So it is really good knowing that there's other people praying for you and praying for your journey. So that is something that really helped us. The other thing is, it really helped me to find some Bible verses that would really encourage me and remind me that God is a good God, and would just remind me about what I know rather than focus on what I don't know. Because, you know, I didn't know when I was going to get my positive. I didn't know when this was going to turn into a success, but I do know that God is a good God, and I do know that God delivers on his promises. So one Bible verse that really resonated with me was Psalm 37:4, which is, "Delight in the Lord and he will give you your heart's desires." And that for me just really helped me gain perspective, because rather than begging God for this to work and therefore almost blaming him that it wasn't working, that I just really needed to delight in him and just declare that, you know, the victory was going to be his, that he is a good God, and all of that just really helped my perspective. Finally, there were some sermons that really helped me, and so I would encourage you to go and find some sermons as well that's going to help you get through your journey, because for Phil and I, this was definitely a spiritual journey for us, and we definitely strengthened in our faith going through this. And there's one specific sermon that I wanted to share with you guys, which I will link in the description box below, and that is by Pastor Rick Warren, who you may know about. The key takeaways that I got from that sermon was that God tests our faith with delay, and it's how we mature in faith. Being persistent in prayer reminds us that he is in control, and to only stop praying when he answers your prayer, or if you don't actually want that answer anymore because God has changed you. So that specific sermon just really spoke to me, and so I wanted to share that with you guys down below, and I encourage you to go and find other sermons that are going to help you through that journey as well. Take the whole thing as a spiritual journey. So that includes my video on everything that helped me and helped Phil get through our IVF journey. If you guys have any tips yourself, leave them down below so that we can all help each other. Once again, if you want to DM me, feel free to do that as well. And if you're going to start embarking on your IVF journey, or you are going through it, wishing you all the best. I'm praying for you. And when you do reach your success story, definitely let me know as well. I would love to know. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.